It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This week's episode of the Sports Lordz is brought to you by LaRussa's Lager. LaRussa's Lager has a higher alcohol content than most other beers, so you can get blackout drunk and alienate your friends, loved ones, and employees. And now it's time for the Sports Lordz. Glug, 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 glug.
So, what up, everybody?
Hey.
We're back. The Sports Lords are back another week.
Yeah, another glorious week here in the good old US of A.
Oh, yeah. To anyone watching us right now, and even the listeners, as you can tell, Kevin is unfortunately not here today. He's on assignment in Beantown.
Yeah. He's doing some great work for us up there this week. We can't go into any details about what exactly he's doing up there.
No.
But just rest assured, you'll be hearing a lot about it very soon.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Beantown is Boston, Massachusetts. It's a nickname for Boston, Massachusetts. And we can't talk about Kevin's mission, but it has a lot to do with chowder. We'll just say that.
Yeah, it's a chowder-centered mission.
Chowder, as they say.
Chowder. Yeah, and I believe they call it Beantown because during the Revolutionary War, there was a bean tax, and they had to blow up a bunch of British troops to get to their beans that they needed. Bad.
They needed those beans, and the bean tax was preventing them from getting them because, as we all know, that's where Beanie Babies are from.
Exactly.
And they were making all the Beanie Babies in Boston.
Yeah. So, yeah, people don't realize Beanie Babies go back well over 200 years.
They came over on the Mayflower with the Pilgrims. And then when Boston was like the center of the country, they were producing them there.
Yeah.
They had all the Irish there working on the Beanie Babies.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they used to be full of actual beans.
Yeah, real beans.
Yeah.
And sometimes people would get so hungry they rip open their Beanie Baby and throw those beans in the pot.
Yeah.
For dinner.
Yeah, you just boil a Beanie Baby and then you got instant meal right there. Like it's like the original instant ramen cup.
Exactly. Yeah. So
and we have Boston to thank for that. And Kevin is working on some stuff about it, so you'll hear more about it next week or next show, whenever.
Exactly. So look forward to that, guys. But a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Non-bean related.
Yeah, there's a lot of non-bean related issues that happened. And it's tough because most of the issues I encounter in my life are bean related. But
well, I'm generally pretty bean focused most of the time, as I think most people are.
Should be.
Beans are kind of the center of everyone's world, and you kind of, work off of beans, being your focus at all times. But
but we're gonna get away from that. We are gonna talk about the formerly Boston Bean Eaters, better known as the Atlanta Braves now.
That's right.
But first, let's start with baseball. But I want to touch on related to that commercial that Herb read for us about LaRussa's Lager, and I think we should talk about Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
To begin with, once again, he's been the subject on the show a lot.
Yeah. I gotta say, I think it's a pretty smart marketing tactic to specifically target people who want to alienate their friends and family through alcoholism,
Yeah.
Because the beer companies, the alcohol companies, they generally try to avoid that subject, tiptoe around it. And LaRussa's Lager is just going right in there and saying, drink this and piss off your loved ones.
Piss off everyone in your life with your alcoholism by drinking this high alcoholic beer. And to market it, we're going to get a person who's known for having problems, substance abuse problems, who's fallen asleep in his car and police have found him, who's yelled at cops for not knowing who he is.
Yeah.
Who, famously has issues, and they got him to be the spokesperson. It's a bold move.
It is. Yeah. I think it's, nobody else had thought of that. I think it's pretty smart to try something different. We'll see how it goes, but Tony, he's making a lot of other headlines aside from the DUI headlines that we know him best for over the last few years, with his unwritten rules controversy in Chicago.
Yeah, that was a big one, and I know it might be like a little bit old news at this point, but you know what? We haven't been broadcasting since it happened, so deal with it.
Yeah.
But Tony La Russa, manager for the Chicago White Sox, got really mad at one of his players, Yermin Mercedes, because he's a follower of the old school unwritten rules, which we famously are not. We don't like them. I think our whole second episode is dedicated to
that's
how much we hate them.
Yeah.
But what happened was Yermin Mercedes was up to bat. The White Sox were up, I believe, 16-5 at that point in the ninth inning.
Something like that.
And excuse me, the Twins had already put in a position player at pitcher. Meaning it wasn't an actual pitcher who was throwing the ball at this point.
Yes, I believe it was Williams Astudillos, famous Slob, Minnesota Twin Slob.
Yeah, he's part of the All Slob team, which we've covered as well. We've covered a lot of these guys. They keep coming up. But so he's up to bat. Bases are loaded. It's 16-5. It's a 3-0 count. It's a 3-0 count.
Yes.
And Williams throws a juicy, just like
52
slow
mile per hour,
batting practice fastball.
Yeah.
And Yermin, rather than taking the pitch, just cranks it out of the stadium.
Bombed it. Yeah.
And hits a homer, hits a dinger, which is something you're not supposed to do.
Yeah. And, there have been a lot of takes on this because first of all, he hits the dinger. And then immediately after the game, Tony La Russa trashes him to the media, says that was stupid. He's going to pay a price for that.
Yeah.
Like that was embarrassing. And so, that's got the conversation started about the unwritten rules and more conflict between the old school baseball mentality and the new school, let's have fun and make this entertaining mentality. And we've clearly stated where we fall in this debate many times. And
the thing with it, he called them clueless, and then the next day like doubled down and kept talking about it. And I think the Twins retaliated or tried to retaliate, and then like Tony La Russa was like, yeah, that was totally fine, rather than being like, no, don't hit my players.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like if when you're down by 10 runs or whatever, and you don't want to give up any more homers, maybe don't put in a position player to pitch.
That was my argument. If you bring in a position player, you're clearly stating you've given up on this game.
Yeah.
And so by Minnesota doing that, they didn't care about this game. But then also, I've never understood this about the running up of the score, because if that's what it's going to be, then Minnesota should just agree we're not going to try anymore either, because it happened to Fernando Tatis last year where he hit a grand slam, got a bunch of crap for doing it because it was the same situation. But then I think they were playing the Dodgers. I want to say they made a run and they the Padres ended up winning by 1 run, but it was if he doesn't hit that home run, they lose the game.
Exactly.
The Rangers. It was the Rangers. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's there's no clock in baseball.
Right.
So, no lead is ever totally insurmountable. It's always possible that a team could come back. it's not like being up by 40 points in the fourth quarter of a football game.
But even then, if it's the Falcons, that could backfire.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We know that all too well down here. But yeah, there's no clock in baseball. So like any lead is technically can be surmounted. And also like guys are judged by their stats in baseball. I mean, in all sports, but definitely in baseball. When your mean Mercedes goes into arbitration in a couple years, they're going to look at his home run numbers and say, well, the average guy who plays your position hits these many home runs and you've only hit these many. So we only think you deserve this much. So it's like this guy, they're literally playing for their livelihood.
We don't know what incentives he has in his contract, where it's like, if you hit this many RBIs, this many home runs in a season, you get this bonus, you get this stuff. Like, why? I just don't get it. It's like, if you don't want the team, if you're worried about the team running up the score, then let's have a mercy rule the way they do in like Little League, where it's like, if you're up by 10, let's just call the game, it's over.
Yeah.
Or like, let's just agree that the other team is like just gonna like take a strike every time and like just end the game to finish it quicker.
Yeah.
Because it's insane. And it's just like, in basketball or other sports, when you're up, you bring in your bench.
Right.
And I remember being at games, like, especially like at UT when it was like in college basketball and they bring in all like the dopey white guys who are not on scholarship on the basketball team. Yeah. Everyone is yelling at them to shoot and is excited when they hit a 3-pointer and like to, cause it's like, yeah, you're getting an opportunity. I don't know if this is what's, you're mean. This could be his last, I don't know.
Yeah.
How good he is or how good he's going to continue to be. Why not let him hit a dinger?
Yeah, exactly. So the whole conversation is ridiculous because they were basically forfeiting, but then they're mad that they kept trying. I don't know. It's like, yeah, they should just have a rule where it's like, if you're down by 10 after the 7th, you can just quit.
Yeah, the game's over.
And the game. If they're okay with 7-inning games in the double headers now, why not just do that?
Yeah, you could say it's to avoid injury. You could say it's to like travel to the next stadium if you need to, whatever it may be. But if you're gonna bring in a position player to pitch, you can't complain about anything that happens after that ever. Because
that's the thing too. I think like they still had guys in their bullpen. They just didn't want to waste them.
Wanted to rest them, yeah.
Yeah, they knew they were going to lose this game. So why waste a bullpen arm? Put in Williams in there. It's like, okay, well then you can't complain about what happens now because you're giving up.
And if you're Tony La Russa, man, defend your players. You're losing the locker room because like immediately after the game, when he went in and complained, Tim Anderson jumped in to defend him. Old Lance Lynn. Yeah. Also defended the player. It was like, yeah, man, hit that home run. Who cares? Like people from other teams were writing in. Yeah. In other places. So it's like, Tony La Russa, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I know. Like, because when I hear the name Lance Lynn, I think of like a washed up country music star, which is basically what he is in baseball form. So it's bad when that guy's like, come on, dude, you got to get with the times, bro.
I mean, Trevor Bauer even chimed in and was like, look, if you hit a dinger off me and it's like, that's totally cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then the funny thing is, because there are a lot of people who are like, well, say what you want about Tony La Russa, but the White Sox have like the best record in baseball right now. But I think they got swept by the Yankees this weekend.
Yeah.
So I wonder, you can't help but wonder, like, is this creating a rift? This old guy with his old guy rules?
Yeah, I feel like he's going to lose the locker room. Like the guys are going to just do whatever they want. They're going to keep celebrating because it works. Like, I mean, the White Sox were a good team last season.
Yeah.
Doing all this stuff too. They shouldn't have fired their manager. It was insane that they did to begin with. But I know the GM of the White Sox is like in love with La Russa, so he's going to defend him at every turn and, stick up for the old school guy. But you're losing it, dude. You got to get with it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes because I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another incident of some kind whether it's like a flamboyant bat flip
Mm-hmm.
or too much trash talk or something that Tony doesn't like that could create more conflict on that team. So gonna have to keep our eyes on that situation for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about Tony La Russa, whether we want to or not. But yeah, that was a big time baseball thing. The other like thing that's like a little bit past in terms of noteworthiness, but again, we record on Mondays, so a lot of stuff happens in between, but we got to address it. That I wanted to bring up, Kevin Pilar, man.
Woo.
That guy is tough, and nothing but respect from me going forward. I mean, until I dig up, like, he said something about some, or whatever. But
as of right now,
in a baseball sense, nothing but respect. Because for those of you that may have missed it, because we do have a decent amount of fans who don't keep up with sports. Kevin Pilar of the New York Mets was hit in the face by a pitch.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, like hit in the face by a rocket bullet baseball shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And it looks like he was in a car crash. Like, it really does.
Yeah. His face is pretty effed up from getting, hit by a fastball, like literally like right between the eyes, like right there. Yeah. And I was watching that game when it happened, but I think I was in the bathroom or something. And I came out and I just saw him on the ground with like, they were showing it still on the game, him like face down with like just blood pouring out of his face.
God,
like, what the hell happened? And,
that's
brutal. He got up and walked off under his own power, which that alone was like, holy shit.
And he was real classy about it afterwards. Like he wasn't
classy.
Yeah, he wasn't like really, because like if I got hit in the face, I'd be furious. Like, I'd be upset. I'd be like angry. But he was like super classy. He was like, I don't think he intended to do it. It clearly got away from him. It's like, this is what the sport is.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, man, nothing but respect for that. Because like that's brutal. Like I would have no issue if he was like angry and cursing the Braves. And I think it was with Jacob Webb, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what's funny about it is, it was a bases loaded situation.
That too.
So it was definitely. I mean, obviously it wasn't intentional, but it was very, very obvious that it wasn't given the situation. But he took the high road and he just had a super positive attitude about it and handled it as well as he possibly could, which was cool.
And he's an amazing center fielder. It's not like he's just like a nobody. He's a really good center fielder.
Good player. Yeah.
And yeah, man, like we say our little rundown here, nails, our old term. Nails, man. That's a tough guy term, nails.
Yeah.
All caps.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that is like, so that happened. Well, first of all, I should say we got some bad information a couple weeks ago. And we thought that Jacob Webb had been released by the Braves for getting in a fight with a fan. Apparently that was just a made up Twitter story. I don't know if we clarified that or not, but for the record, he's still on the Braves.
He's still on the Braves, still pitching.
Yeah. And so he had that outing where he almost killed a guy with his fastball. They took him out of the game after that because obviously he was clearly like not.
How are you going to pitch after that?
Yeah. But Brian Snitker, in all of his wisdom, just a couple of days later, doesn't put him in like a low pressure situation. His first game back after almost killing a guy was in like another like multiple men on base, high leverage situation, high pressure situation that he immediately blew.
Yeah.
So just as a Braves fan, just more bullpen shenanigans happening with Brian Snitker and this team.
And also like the big thing in all of this, the big story here, it's like, who knew that like stuff on Twitter and on the internet wasn't all true? Like I thought that if it's on Twitter, then it's real.
I was shocked when
that's blowing my world up.
Yeah. When I learned that stuff you read on the internet might not always be true.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I cried a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
don't blame you.
I lost some innocence that day.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hold on a second. This changes everything.
Right.
So that's been a tough adjustment. I think we're both doing a pretty good job of hiding how much our world's been destroyed by that realization.
Yeah. So anyone listening out there or watching, like, remember, it's not all true.
Yeah. And if you,
except for what we say. Beanie Babies are from Boston. They are from the Revolution. All that's true. Don't look it up.
Yeah. You can trust us. Just don't trust anybody else.
Don't trust Twitter.
Yeah.
Sticking with the Braves because that's who we root for or whatever. We're gonna get away from them. Don't worry, non-Braves fans. I did want to mention the Braves did have a big win. I mean, they had a great series against the Pirates. I wish they could play them all the time.
That would be ideal. Yeah.
But there was one game they ended up winning 20-1.
Yeah.
Which is it's a if there's ever a time to have a mercy rule, because it was 20-0 going into the ninth. The Pirates got their one run in the ninth inning. If there's ever a mercy rule, like, that's it. But our boy Ronald Acuna, who is having MVP caliber season.
Oh yeah.
In the eighth inning, he was going to go bat left-handed, is what he wanted to do, which I think would have been kind of fun. But Brian Snitker, the manager, thought better of it and didn't let him. And after the game, his quote was, he tried. I told him I've got 3 grandkids and that I got to put through college. I can't get fired.
Yeah. I have to say, I would have loved to have seen Ronnie hit handed, but I can understand why Snitker, because, like, if Ronnie does that and he, like, pulls something,
if he gets hurt,
then people are going to be like, what is wrong with you? So I can understand Snitker being like, no, don't do that. It's a bad idea.
My question is, at that point, especially with what we've been seeing over the last month at this point, why is Ronald Acuna still in the game?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, it's at that point you bring in Ender Inciarte, or you put in, Camargo to play in the outfield or something, and you sit, because Ronald's been flirting with getting injured so much.
He has, man. And it's like, it seems like every season in his young career, there's always at least a scare.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he either actually gets hurt, or there's like he had a couple weeks ago where he stepped awkwardly on first base, and you're like, no, did he just tear his ACL?
Right.
So, yeah, you want to protect him at all costs.
Especially with pitchers wanting to throw at him, the Marlins in particular, historically, but, like, he gets hit a lot.
Yeah.
And those are the situations where I'm like, that's where you protect the guy. That's where you're up big. Don't risk it.
Yeah. But yeah, the Braves it's been a real Jekyll and Hyde season for them. And that's kind of what it was last week, because they lost that series to the Mets and then turned around and won 3 out of 4 against the Pirates. And I think they're back to 1 game under 500.
The standings, the NL East is just inconsistent. The Mets are still in first, 21-19. The Braves are in second, currently 23-24, same record as the Phillies. The Marlins at 22-24, and the Nationals at 20-23. So every team is under 500 except for the Mets currently.
Yeah. So I mean, it's weird, man. It's hard to get a feel for, like, what this team is right now, because sometimes they look great. Sometimes like the bullpen's numbers aren't horrible, but then they seem to blow a lead every time. Like, I don't know. They're just all over the place.
To compare, the NL East first place Mets 21-19. The NL West, first place Padres 30-17.
Yeah, exactly.
The Dodgers 29-18. The Giants 28-19.
Yeah. I think I saw something that listed like the top 15 teams in Major League Baseball in run differential so far this season. And there's not a single team in the NL East that's in the top half of Major League Baseball in run differential. Like they're all just like middling at best. Like nobody's running away with this thing right now. So it's good for the Braves for all the issues they've had that they're still somehow still in it. But it's
at some point you gotta get going.
Exactly.
And I'm like waiting for it. And it's like Ronald Acuna, we're wasting an amazing season from him. Like Austin Riley is really having a hell of a year as well. And we're wasting that right now as
it's crazy, man. Cause like 2 weeks into the season, I was like, I don't know if Riley, because this is his make or break year, basically.
Yeah.
Like you either claim that third baseman job this year, or they're probably going to look elsewhere. And he was sucking. He was hitting like 175 through the first couple weeks, and then he's just been on fire ever since. He hit 2 dingers yesterday.
Yeah, and he's picked up his fielding as well. Like since last year, I was very impressed. So he's definitely a capable fielder.
Yeah,
I just got to be a consistent hitter, keep this up,
exactly.
and I could get it going. I mean, Freddie's got to wake up. Like, but it's tough. Is this like the Braves? Also, I think they're in the top like 5 or something in home runs, or maybe they're first still as a team. They just like they either hit dingers or strike out. I mean, I know that's what baseball is nowadays, but they're kind of an extreme case of that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, actually. Brings us to another topic. There were 2 more no hitters last week.
Yeah.
And I think if you count Madison Bumgarner's unofficial no hitter, they've already broken or tied the record for no hitters in a season. So there's obviously been a lot of discussion about like what that says about the current state of baseball, but it's not great. I don't think it's a great thing that there's a no hitter every week.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. And like no hitters are cool, and they used to be like we would get excited for them, but like when you're watching a no hitter, it's kind of boring.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of action going on.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing that like made them fun was that they didn't, you'd only get a couple a season.
Right
now, it's like we're averaging like 1 a week through so far this season. It's like, well,
it was like, I used to remember like people like random pitchers is like, oh, that guy threw a no hitter. Now I'm like, I don't even know. Can't keep up.
Exactly. I feel like they've already become devalued. So I don't know, man. Baseball's got a lot of issues. Like they just like, I don't know. They keep tinkering with the game in like the wrong way. Right. Like they juiced the balls for a season or 2, which was kind of fun. And now it seems like they've de-juiced them a little bit. And it's just, I don't know. It's like you guys got to figure this out. Oh, the other thing too, I think it's part of this is the shift.
Right.
It's like, cause just watching Braves games this year, like, and I feel like this happens to Marcell Ozuna a lot, where he hits like a rocket past the pitcher, and there's a shortstop standing right behind second base to field what has been a single for the 180 years of baseball history. It's like that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like they need to ban the shift or come up with something to like even things out a little bit.
Make an unwritten rule about it.
Yeah, damn it. Yeah, we got to have rules, but we can't write them down.
No.
It'd be stupid.
Because we don't know how to write. We come out of high school and go straight to minor league baseball.
Yeah. We never learned that stuff. That's for dweebs, not us.
Dorks.
Yeah.
Get out of here. I hear ya. Also, disclaimer: if you're getting the buzz sound, there's yard work being done around me. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're not in the sportatorium anymore, guys.
No.
We don't have the world-class, cutting-edge recording facilities that we used to have. So
yeah, where you could hear people have sex or make smoothies or other different noises, which you used to be able to hear when we were all in the...
those noises that added to the show.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest baseball news, if we can get to that we haven't hit yet, that I really want to like get on, is Alex Rodriguez is launching a makeup line.
Yeah.
And that's like top billed baseball news right there.
Yeah. Man, he's really, I guess he's just living his best life after J-Lo left him.
It's interesting. Whatever, man. Like, I don't care. Just like, that's an interesting market to get into for A-Rod.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting because I know that there are existing makeup lines for men. I believe,
for sure.
And they're generally marketed towards gay men, which makes sense. So A-Rod is trying to corner the heterosexual male makeup market, I guess. Which, good luck. I don't know. It's like A-Rod has always just been this like insanely vain character, and it's just like, of course you're the first like high profile famous person who's famous, like hetero man who wants to start a makeup line. Like, yeah, because you're already in love with yourself and you want to bone yourself, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and of course he got trolled by Jose Canseco and like a bunch of Twitter and like homophobic jokes. Like, come on, guys, that's so stupid. Stop doing that. Get over it. It was just like an interesting thing to like launch and promote as soon as like the breakup. It was like, I know what I'll get.
Yeah.
To stop talking about Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Makeup line. It's like, all right, Alex. I don't know. It felt like a weird timing thing.
Well, like he's just like, he's such a weird guy, man. Cause like somebody a few weeks ago sent me this video of him talking about some just like random, I think it was like a TikTok video where he's one of those, because this is like a thing on social media, like the guys who are like, all right, I'm going to teach you like my steps for building real estate wealth. Here's a deal I did in Dade County, Florida in 2017. Like, he was explaining like this property that they bought 5 years ago for $1 million. They did X, Y, and Z, and they sold it this year for 1.8. And so we netted almost $1 million. And it's like, no one cares. Like, you're A-Rod. You're a famous baseball player, a Hall of Fame baseball player. Like, I'm not really interested in hearing it, like your real estate strategy and shit, like
I always find it weird. Like, I used to watch, like with my wife, who would watch reruns of Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
The hit BBC show.
A hell of a show. Yeah. Very entertaining.
And he was a guest judge a lot of times. And it's like, why would I want A-Rod to invest in my business? Like, he's a baseball player. Like, yeah, I know you can be you can have like a lot of things in your life, but like, what has he done? Like, what has he done? Like, yeah, all these other people, like, even if it's a stretch, like have a business they can like rely on, or like Mark Cuban, like, yeah, sure. I don't know. What does he even really know about it? He just was the first guy to put sports games on internet radio. And
yeah, exactly.
Billionaire.
Yeah. Like Mark Cuban, it was like back in 1998. Yeah, like back when anybody could, if you had a halfway decent idea, you could become an internet billionaire.
Like, I want to listen to Indiana Hoosiers basketball games, and I don't live in Indiana anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right. But it's like A-Rod, but still, Mark Cuban isn't an athlete. He's just like a rich guy, and he has so much money. Like, hey, why not? But like A-Rod, like, would I really go to him? Like, it just feels...
Yeah, I don't know.
Feels like he's trying to be this business guy, and it's like, how? I don't trust you.
I know, it's just kind of weird. It's like, look, man, I get it. You made hundreds of millions of dollars in your career.
Mhm.
So of course you're going to want to like do stuff with that money. But like, I'm not really interested. Like, I don't, there are plenty of sources these days to learn how to do different investment strategies. Like A-Rod would be pretty low on the list of like, I'm looking to invest millions of dollars in real estate. Let me see what A-Rod has to say about all
A-Rod
this.
should know. He's bought real estate in Seattle and Texas and New York and Miami. Like if he had a company where he had like a bunch of like other people working for him, but it was like his company, then it's like, all right, I could see that maybe.
Yeah.
But A-Rod directly telling me to buy a house or not, like I don't know. But maybe he's good.
I don't necessarily think he's bad at it. I'm just like, for me, I'm just like, I'm not interested. I don't know.
I don't trust a lot of those internet guys like that. I know A-Rod's really good friends with that Gary V guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, which like also like, what the hell does that guy do? Because like every video I watch of him, his whole strategy is like, social media, guys. You just got to get social media going and then you'll be rich. And it's like, no.
I don't know anything about that guy, but he seems like a scammer.
Me too.
Like I feel like all of those types of guys are just like, because like you see like on YouTube, you see all the videos where it's like you want to learn how to like make money quickly and like investment tips, and it's like these guys, it seems like they all just want you to watch their videos so they can get their YouTube revenue, and they're not actually telling you anything.
Click the link, buy my book, get my CD. Like it's
exactly
scam.
Yeah.
They're just all weird grifters. And it's weird that A-Rod wants to do that. It's like A-Rod could do a lot of things. Like the athlete who's really been savvy and going to be super savvy with money is LeBron James, because Clutch Sports, he's like owner of, and they represent like tons of players, and they're going to start representing coaches now.
Which like that makes a lot more sense as a business for a professional, like a sports adjacent business. It's like, oh yeah, that's a perfect fit for you.
And he's not even doing it, but it's like his friends, but it's like he's invested in all that in it. And so it's like, I get that. And I would trust LeBron. He knows what he wants. He's had agents. He knows what he needs. He knows what he wants. Like I would listen to that, but like A-Rod selling me a gold bracelet or like real estate, like I'm like, I don't know, man, like you're rich, I'm not, why would I listen to you?
And also like I'm like, I would love to have $500 million like A-Rod does. If I had $500 million, I wouldn't be I'd be like, I'm good, I don't need like I'll just like fucking like find some hobbies, man. And if I start any business, it'll be just like a bar that then me and my friends can drink for free at and watch that's as far as I would go. And otherwise be like, I don't care about like flipping real estate or whatever,
But that's like the difference between us and them. Like I think we don't really care to be rich. I just want to live comfortably.
Like, exactly.
I don't need that much stuff.
Like,
it's a certain point. Like, how much do you really need? Those guys are like, I need more.
A-Rod's like, I am gonna be a billionaire. It probably is actually like one of his goals is like, I'm halfway to being a billionaire. If I play my cards right, by the time I'm 60, I'll have $1 billion in the bank, and that'll be good for me.
But he won't have J-Lo.
Exactly. Money can't buy love, A-Rod. So
but yeah, I don't know. I think that was all the baseball stuff that happened this week.
I think we covered it all, like
pretty intently, in depth. We'll switch over from the baseball to the other big news that or the other big like stories or whatever that were happening this week. And one that happened last night. Which is the NBA playoffs.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah.
Woo. The NBA playoffs kicked off. It was NBA playoff weekend. One of my favorite weekends of the year, because it's like you get every team playing immediately. And before we even get to that, let's talk about the play-in games, because we didn't get to cover those since those happened after we recorded last week. But the Lakers were able to knock off the Warriors in their play-in game to secure the 7th seed, with LeBron hitting an insane shot at the very end there. And watching that game, honestly, or the replay of it, because I can't stay up that late. The Warriors should have won that game.
They should have.
And they didn't, which I'm okay with. And then they ended up losing to the Grizz. So the Warriors and Steph, MVP Steph, that everyone was talking about, out of the playoffs.
They're out. I'm not shedding any tears for them.
No.
Obviously Steph had an amazing season.
Yeah. It's undeniable. He was scoring champion. I think he ended up averaging 33 a game or something like that.
He carried that team.
Greatest shooter of all time. Sure.
He deserves all the credit.
Yeah.
And lots of people have been giving him MVP talk, which I was like, okay,
sure. Yeah.
Why not? But then I did hear Dame Lillard push back on that. And I was like, damn, he's got a point. Because he was like, well, last year when I was dominating, and did he win the scoring title last year?
Let me check.
He had an amazing season last year, but he was like, everybody told me I couldn't win the MVP because we were the 8th seed.
Right.
So I don't see how Steph, who didn't even actually make the playoffs, how he could be the MVP. And I was like, you know what? He's got a point there, folks.
2019-2020 season was James Harden.
Okay.
Damian Lillard was 2.
Okay. Yeah.
So he does have a point. And I think it's first and foremost, before we even get into this, I don't care about end of season awards. I don't care about arguing about the MVP. I don't care about, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, it means to the players, because again, contract signing bonuses, you can use that which I'm all about. Get your money. That's awesome. But the NBA screws itself because, and this isn't my idea. It's other people's idea that could be, it would fix this whole debate and all this stuff. Instead of MVP and most valuable player, just you have to have an offensive player of the year. You have a defensive player of the year award.
Right.
Why not have an offensive player of the year? Because then the scoring champion or whatever can get that. Because MVP, if it's most valuable player, it's typically LeBron James every year.
Yeah, exactly.
You take him off any team he's on and they suck.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. That's always been the problem. That's always the debate with MVP, is it's most valuable. And so it's kind of hard. It's subjective. It's not really a clear, it's, how do you judge that? Because people could argue that, you could make an argument that Julius Randle is an MVP candidate.
I mean, he was in the conversation.
Yeah. And the Knicks aren't nearly they're probably not making the playoffs without Julius Randle. So he was very valuable.
Yeah. You could argue Bradley Beal for the Wizards, because he's their best player. And without him, they are one of the worst teams in the league.
Exactly.
So it's and if you have a defensive player of the year, why not have offensive player of the year as well?
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to me. But all that said, Steph Curry, watching from home, gone fishing, as they say on TNT.
Yeah.
But then the real playoffs got started over the weekend. Some fun games. I think that the Bucks Heat series is going to be a really good one. I'm looking forward to seeing that one, because Miami's going to come back. I do like that Milwaukee purposely didn't tank or do anything to try to avoid that matchup, and they want to exercise the demons from last year. It's ballsy and tough, but that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
And they were, the Bucks were able to hang on in overtime against the Heat over the weekend. That was a really fun game to watch. The Suns up on the Lakers, and it looks like LeBron hurt his shoulder. Chris Paul hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, they're both going to play, but I could see the everyone's already writing the Lakers off, which look, I don't want the Lakers to win. I love LeBron, but I don't like LA.
Yeah. They won last year. I'm going for the Suns. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you right off the Lakers at your own peril, because last year in the playoffs, I think they lost every game one of every series,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, oh, okay, now we
Yeah.
got to play a little harder, and then bam.
Exactly. I mean, they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, so they're gonna be like, you can't write them off. Exactly, write them off at your own peril because
Yeah,
they have two of the best players on earth on their
I
team.
do think they're not as good as they used to be. Like they're missing. Like it's crazy to say, but I feel like Dwight Howard and McGee were so big for their team as just enforcers because Andre Drummond is not that great anymore.
Yeah.
But that was like the big story that everyone's talking about. And then I think the Blazers won. I think the Nuggets are in a little bit of trouble with Jamal Murray being injured and not being there. As good as Jokic is, the future MVP or whatever of this year, because that's who everyone voted for. I think it's going to be tough. Although Michael Porter Jr. looks awesome and he's going to like really help keep them in, but I think they're going to miss Jamal Murray.
Yeah,
a lot. The Grizz last night, man, they were able to knock off Utah, number 1 seed Utah.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell's apparently furious because they didn't allow him to play because he's coming off injury.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, and so Ja Morant and the young Grizz, the baby Grizz, continue.
I love Ja, man.
I love that team. That team's fun.
It's a fun team. Ja's fun. Like, I'm definitely pulling for them for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there's other matchups and there's other things that happen, but we got to get to it. The game everyone's like,
oh yeah,
everyone in my circle like is excited about Knicks Hawks, and I gotta say it was really awesome to watch Madison Square Garden full of people, loud, cheering, into it.
Yeah, just for our country, just for like having lived through a pandemic for the last year, it was like, whoa,
yeah,
crazy to see a packed sports arena again.
It felt cool. It was fun. It, like you were saying before we started recording, it felt like way more of a high stakes game than game 1 of the first round between a 4 and 5 seed.
Yeah,
it felt like a finals intensity, and it was
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, like from the first tip, the crowd was just so into it, which was awesome. Obviously, hell of a game. Our Hawks came out on top after they jumped out to that early lead, and then the Knicks slowly chipped away, cut it down to 2 at halftime, and then it was a real back and forth affair in the second half. It
was a fun game. It was just like blow for blow. One team would throw a punch, the other team right back, right back, and it was awesome. And in the lead up to the game, and it wasn't awesome just because the Hawks won, because like I always anticipate a loss.
Yeah.
In these
Atlanta
games,
sports fan must do that to survive. Of course.
Although I did make a prediction to my wife, very unlike me. I think there was like 3 or 2 minutes left in the game. The Knicks had just made a huge shot and had taken the lead, and they cut to courtside, and they cut to Jon Stewart, Spike Lee, and Tracy Morgan doing the Cabbage Patch, and like the Garden going insane. And I turned to my wife. I never do this, and I was like, I can't wait to see these people when the Hawks win this game in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And sure enough, got real quiet.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoyed this game, not just because the Hawks won, but for a lot of other reasons. For the last 3 years, all I've heard the NBA media and the press say that Trae Young is empty stats. He doesn't play winning basketball and can't do anything when it matters. I think last night may have stopped that, hopefully.
Yeah, I
really
think
slow it down.
He shut the haters the hell up. Yeah.
Because he finished with 30 points, 10 assists, and 5 rebounds in his debut, which has only been done one other time by LeBron James.
Yeah. And he took the ball with whatever it was like 10 seconds left, deked the hell out of Frank Ntilikina, who's supposed to be their defensive specialist on the Knicks, just like crossed him over, got past him, put that floater in. Like, you can't say, like, he came through, he had a huge game, and then with the game on the line, he made it happen. So it's like,
in his first playoff game with an arena full of people yelling, and excuse me, any children out there, but this is what New Yorkers were yelling, fuck you, Trey, in unison for the whole game.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't like it when people look at me sideways when I'm walking down the street. I can't imagine having that many people specifically targeting me and yelling at me like that.
Yeah.
And then have to perform my job at the highest level.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And it's funny with Trey too, because like personality wise, he's not a jerk. Like he's a normal dude, but he's already become a villain, like through no making of his own in the NBA, just because he got from the trade with Luka. Everybody's hated him. Yeah. Like they've loved to dump all over Trey, because it was like, wow, I can't believe the Hawks traded Luka for this guy. And he's scrawny, and he's kind of an ugly dude. He's tiny.
He's balding.
He's balding. He's got weird hair. So he's taken like so much shit for not just for like being himself, basically.
And it started in college, man. Like he got,
it did. Yeah.
I mean, high school, I'm sure, but he got harassed, like on the national stage, he got harassed at Oklahoma.
Yeah. And he's just always been a magnet for hate. So it was awesome to see him like shut the haters up like that, man.
And here's the thing, like first off, why is he the villain? Why aren't the Knicks the villain and the Hawks the heroes in this scenario? National media. Yeah. You know, like why isn't Julius Randle the villain? He's the one bowling people over and being stronger than everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And also like everyone hates on Trey and like he's like this jerk or whatever in people's eyes. Luka Doncic is in like the top 5 in technical fouls this year. He just recently punched Colin Sexton in the balls and got ejected from a game, and he's a hothead himself.
Yeah.
No one questions him.
No. And of course, sure, people are going to point out that Luka's going to be the better long-term player or whatever. I mean, nobody's arguing that Trey is better. We're not arguing that Trey's better than Luka.
Luka's incredible.
Yeah. Like, we're not saying that. We're just saying like Trey is very good.
Yeah, he's a very good player.
People are so butthurt about him being good, because there was a whole narrative. It started with that summer league game before his rookie season where he, shot like 1 for 13 or whatever and was terrible. People have just wanted to shit on him from day one because of the trade through no fault of his own. It's like, all right, I think any Hawks fan wouldn't argue that Luka is a better player than Trey, but Trey is very good. And people, the Ryan Russillos and fucking
it's Bill Simmons who started it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they can't, they don't want to admit it. And it's like, well, what are you going to say now? Because he just went into MSG and shut all those assholes
in his first
up.
game.
Yeah.
And as someone who watches almost all the Hawks games or whatever, like the thing that also people like Bill Simmons and all these experts who will talk to you and all this stuff, they don't watch these games because Trey showed you last night the type of player he is. Everyone compares him to Steph Curry and talks about how he's like Steph Curry. Trey's not. Trey's favorite player is Steve Nash. He likes to set guys up, and that floater of his is the most dangerous weapon he has. So the Knicks went to stop the 3 ball, which is fine. He's like, I'm gonna take the lane every single time and hit a floater, because Trey isn't just Trey never said he's Steph Curry. He never said he wants to be Steph Curry. That's a label that got put on him.
Yeah.
And hopefully people see that he doesn't play like Steph. He plays different than Steph. I mean, no one plays like Steph.
He's not as good as Steph, and nobody would claim that either. Obviously, Steph is way better. Yeah. But again, it's like he's really good, but people, they bend over backwards to create reasons to hate on him. Well, it's like, dude, say what you will, man, but right now the results are looking pretty good for Trey.
And he seems like a good dude just with his like off-court stuff that he does and things he's involved with. And he like donates money to like good causes and like really embraces the city of Atlanta. Yeah, it's cool. And I can't wait for the games to shift back to Atlanta, because it's always funny when it's like LA and New York with the celebrities, and they have like all the Hollywood stars, and then Atlanta, it's like the celebrities is like Quavo and like Young Thug and like 2 Chainz. It's like, yeah, it's a very like different vibe.
Quavo, 2 Chainz, and then like Ric Flair, and like some other totally
and like Austin Riley in between them. So it's like it's just like a totally different vibe in Atlanta. But yeah, I think this series is gonna go long because like they're very evenly matched. I mean, down to the stats, they're almost identical. But yeah, I think in the end, Hawks win in 3.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's gonna be an awesome series. I hope that like this is the beginning of a Knicks Hawks rivalry would be cool, because it seems like both these teams, you know, have bright futures.
It's like 2 young teams.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, everyone's writing them off against like the next rounds, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I like you said, a rivalry would be cool. It'd be cool to have like something built in. For the future.
And I, you know, because I know, I'm sure now we probably have more Knicks fans listening than we have had in the past. So just a disclaimer, I don't dislike the Knicks.
No.
I like this Knicks team. I don't have any hate towards them, but you know, we're in this position where our guys are up against them. If they weren't playing the Hawks, I would be pulling for the Knicks.
Yeah, I would love to see the Knicks make a run. It's just that the Hawks are in the way. I will never root for the Nets.
No.
I root for the Knicks all day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
But right now, sorry.
Yeah.
The Hawks have been my favorite team since I moved to like Atlanta. Because like I moved to Atlanta when the Braves were the worst team. I didn't know what American football was. But we had Dominique, we had Stacey Ogman, we had Kevin Willis, we had Mookie, you know, like Mookie later on. We had all these guys, and it's like I fell in love with the Hawks immediately. I understood basketball, so I've always soft spot for the Hawks. Former season ticket holder, everything. I really, really, really hope they can get through this first round. I think it'd be cool. I mean, they've already like gotten to where I wanted them to, but now I'm like hyped. Now I want more.
Oh yeah.
And it just sucks. We have to wait till Wednesday.
I know it's annoying how much these things get spaced out, but the intensity level in the rest of this series is going to be freaking off the charts.
I think so.
I think every game is going to be pretty much like last night's game.
And I know we're running out of time, and we mostly talked about Trae Young, but I got to give a shout out, like Clint Capella, most underrated and disrespected player in the Hall of NBA this season. He's had an amazing season. Should have been up for Defensive Player of the Year award, at least the discussions. Like should have been in it. Not to say he should have won it, but like should have at least been in those discussions because he had an amazing year. And Bogdanovich, man.
Oh yeah,
incredible, most underrated, super underrated player. The worst thing about this whole thing, that's the most noteworthy, Danilo Gallinari's new haircut. That mohawk is. He looked like a create a player kind of thing from like NBA Live or something.
Yeah, he did. / like some kind of villain from like a Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah.
We're bringing in the big Italian. He's gonna mess you up.
Yeah, for this heist that he's got to. Yeah, that haircut it took me like at least a quarter to like settle into like seeing his haircut.
Yeah. And he promptly had a horrible game.
He had a terrible game. Terrible game.
Okay. All right.
But you know, he may not show up in the box score, but with his size and strength, he's going to give Julius Randle another body to have to deal with. And that's like, you know, that's good enough in this series. Cause like if we're relying on Danilo to win games, then something's gone very wrong.
Exactly.
So, if you know, but anything we can get out of him, cause Alec Burks, like for the Knicks, like I hope he doesn't keep that going. I don't think he will, but yeah, he went off. And it's a fun series. I think it's just like 2 evenly matched teams. It's going to be super fun for anyone listening out there who has no rooting interest or no care about the NBA at all. not just because it's the Hawks. I'm recommending you, if you want to tune into something, Hawks and Knicks is gonna be a super fun series.
Yeah, I think if you just want to watch some NBA playoffs, like this is probably going to be the most competitive first round series, or one of the most competitive first round series. So
it's like if you want to see the future, because there's no old, like, I mean, Lou Williams is like maybe the oldest guy on the team, which is like still not that bad. It's like if you want to see like the future of NBA, like this is a really fun one to watch, and I highly recommend. We're pretty much out of time, but before we go, we can't go without discussing one more Atlanta thing, but it's also a national thing, and that's Julio Jones.
Yep.
Of the Atlanta Falcons, because he's basically out. We found out because today on Undisputed, Shannon Sharp called him live on Undisputed on Fox, the debate show with Skip. And Julio basically admitted he's out of Atlanta and said he no way in hell wants to go to Dallas because he wants to win.
Yeah.
Because he was spotted wearing a Cowboys like hoodie or something, and that's what sparked some of that Dallas talk.
Yeah. I kind of thought they'd maybe try to find a way to keep him since they're sticking with Matt and not trying to rebuild right now. But on the other hand, the team has no money to spend.
Right. Yeah.
So they're in a tight spot. So it's tough, like I love Julio, but he gets hurt more and more every season now. His value is only going to decrease from here on out. So what are you going to do? Yeah.
And in that situation today on Undisputed, because Shannon Sharp called him, he picked up a cell phone, called him on air. And everyone's like, did Julio know? Like, did he know he was on air? Like, is this like a thing that Shannon did? And all that is fun. But here's my take on it. And like what I don't know. I feel like, I don't think Shannon Sharp would do that. Shannon would know better. He's a former player. I don't think, and he likes Julio and they're friends. I don't think he would put him on blast like that. If anything, I think it was all set up. I think Julio was like, call me, I'll say some things on the air. You'll get the ratings. You'll get all the attention. You'll get all that. Also, my name will get out there. People will know I don't want to be in Atlanta anymore. And then negotiations with agents and stuff can start.
I think that makes a lot of sense because like now it's the sports story of the day right now, basically.
Yeah. It's all over Twitter and everyone's like, can you believe it? Like he didn't know.
Yeah.
He had to have been. I don't think Shannon would do that. That'd be like an insane thing to do to someone. Cause like, what if he says a curse word, anything like on live air, like
exactly.
Also for Shannon to be that calm that nothing's going to be said. I mean, I don't know. Like you never know what's going to happen.
No, so, I agree. I think you're right that it was probably staged.
Yeah.
But yeah, the end of the Julio era, it'll be unfortunately mostly remembered for the 28-3 pants pooping. But
the amazing catch he had on the sideline that didn't mean anything in the end.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved Julio too. He was one of my faves, but yeah, I think it's time to move on. And also like for him, like I like him as a player. I want him to be happy and to succeed because I root for him. So it's like, if this is what does that, and who knows what, it's a trade. Who knows what the Falcons are getting back? If they get more future picks, like we can find a quarterback for the future in the next few drafts. We can find defense, which they don't have right now.
Exactly.
With the future. And it's like, I think, my prediction for them all along was that they were going to be average with Julio. And I think they're going to be average without him.
Yeah.
I
think that's right. So,
I think Tampa's going to win the NFC South regardless. So it doesn't really matter.
It's certainly looking that way. Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to sneak that one in because that one happened a little bit later in the day. And yeah, I think that does it for all the sports that happened this week. I think that's a comprehensive look. That's another episode of your Sports Lords here.
Yeah, another classic. You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Kevin will be back from his mission.
Yep.
Before we go, I just want to encourage everyone once again to check out the Worldwide Sports Radio Network website, download the app, check out a lot of the other shows. They're going to have way more coverage in the NBA playoffs, into the Julio story, into all that stuff. Probably way more professional than us, a little bit more nuanced and researched instead of talking about Trey's balding head and bald spots.
Yeah.
They'll focus on other things. But yeah, check them out. You know where to find it on the socials. And yeah, everyone, have a good week, and shout out to Tony Soprano for doing a drop for us. Also
Thanks, that. Tony. He's in witness protection, but we found him. We can't tell you how.
We can't tell you how. That's our secret. We take it to the grave. But thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Bye, everyone. Papa bless.
Bye.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.